Story 1. Am I the a-hole for being upset that I'm not involved in my brother's wedding, which I am paying for? I, 31 female, have a brother, 29 male, and he's getting married next year. We lost our mom in 2012 and our dad in 2016. We are each other's only living relatives. I have a good job. I earn a lot of money, £150,000 per year. My brother also has a good job, but doesn't earn anywhere near as much, £35,000. We are raised to always look after each other and share. My partner and I are child-free. Over the years, I've paid for my brother's master's degree, paid the down payment on his house our parents rented so there's no family home. I will also be paying for my future sister-in-law, 26 female, and my brother to have future rounds of in vitro fertilization. Sister-in-law works part-time and earns about $15,000 a year. Her parents are not well off. My brother asked if I could contribute to the cost of the wedding. I said I'd pay for it as it is small with 100 guests and set up a wedding account for them into which I put £25,000, which they both have access to. Sister-in-law's entire family are involved as bridesmaids and groomsmen. My husband and I are guests. Brother and sister-in-law have been going around venues with her family, and I get emailed the costing if it's selected. I told my brother I don't mind paying for the wedding, but I feel really weird that everyone else is involved in the decision and I'm just involved with paying. Brother has said that I'm not our parents, I can't replace our parents, and that's why I'm not involved. Why can't I just do something nice without making him feel crap? I feel like an a-hole for causing drama, but also feel taken advantage of. Am I the a-hole? Okay, so on one hand, there is the whole just because you've offered to pay for something doesn't mean that you should therefore get to be a part of that thing. It was your offer to make, and so I don't think that your brother is under an obligation to involve you in the wedding. I am, however, absolutely shocked that he wouldn't have you involved in the wedding. That seems like such a D move. Seriously, you've provided so much for him and his fiancée. And you're the only family each other has, and he doesn't want you as part of the wedding. I don't know. He has the right to not want to do that. I question that. That's just. I don't think you're an a-hole for being hey, it feels kind of weird that I'm not. I don't even think it's the money thing necessarily. I feel even if you didn't contribute any money as the only family, especially if the fiancé is involving all of her family, you would think the brother would want his sister there. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the family and all that stuff, but ugh. Story 2. Call bylaw on me because I'm too sick to mow my grass? Enjoy your view of my 8-foot fence. So the call about the long grass was kind of a last straw thing. The backstory is my grandpa passed away 2 years ago and I moved into his house. He was pretty healthy, but he let the yard go down a bit. The grass was maintained, but the trees were overgrown, his pond and patio was dirty, etc. Our neighbors years ago sold their property to a property builder. Our properties are in an L shape, so our neighbor was using our backyard as her virtual backyard. For the past 2 years, I've been trying my best to maintain the backyard while also working and dealing with my grandpa's stuff. Well, for the past few weeks, the backyard has fallen a bit as stress from work has creeped in and I was sick for a few weeks. Before this, my neighbor has always had nitpicks, but I mostly ignored them, but they rang my door one day to complain about a mess in the back, and I told them, I have a life outside this house. If it bugs you that much, you're more than welcome to do the work. Following that, bylaw came by, and they were very understanding about my situation and gave me more than enough time to feel better and mow the lawn. Well, that whole thing peed me off, and I wanted to get the typical white picket fence as there wasn't a fence, and we were passively looking for a dog. So I decided screw it, and built the largest fence I could, and since her house was right on the property line, she now looks out the window and instead of seeing my backyard, she sees just a wood fence. Yeah, I mean, if she's gonna crab about, the state of your backyard, well, now she doesn't have to be angry about it anymore. She'll never have to see it again. I think that's a legitimate way of dealing with that, Sounds like a bit of a pain in the butt neighbor. And I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Neighbors, just be nice to each other. Don't be Don't be nitpicky. Don't let little things allow you to create these weird feuds and divides and stuff. Just learn to let some stuff go. Obviously, there's a line, they had like a bubbling pool of toxic waste back there. Yeah, maybe say something or call the bylaws. I don't know. But the rest of the time, just chill out. Just grab a beer, sit down, relax. Story 3. Block my promotion, you silly, silly man. This was a few years ago. I got a job in cinema. I was 4 or 5 years older than most of my coworkers, whom it was most of their first jobs. Having had a couple of jobs previously and a few years of maturity under my belt, I quickly became a very valued employee, so much so I was given a promotion to supervisor within 6 months. The general manager loved me. I was a Swiss Army knife. I could take care of projection duties when the projection manager was at our other sites. I dealt with the busy periods very calmly and was able to diffuse potential situations into getting worse. I was very good at my job. I would be in charge of the building when whatever manager was there had to step out. We had 1 general manager and 4 floor managers. They all liked me because I made their jobs a lot easier. When I was working, they didn't have to work as hard, and when it wasn't busy, they didn't have to work at all. 2 more years go by, and one of the floor managers says she's leaving in 3 months. Without having to say it, I know I'm going to get her position. They always hire internally, and I am head and shoulders above my coworkers. This is where it gets interesting. Let's call this manager Blobby. So Blobby does a stock take every Thursday. I always worked Thursday mornings in projection, so for the last couple of years, I had a standing arrangement to drink with my pals on a Thursday night. I effing loved my Thursday drinks. I worked most weekends, so this was my Saturday night. One Thursday, I'm doing my projection checks, and the GM says that Blobby is sick. Would I be able to do the stock take? F it, I'll do it. 9 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We have to count the stock at retail after we close, hence the late finish. It's a horrible shift, but the brownie points are worth it. So, next week comes along, and instead of doing my projection shift on Thursday, I'm in to do a stock shift. I asked the GM what's going on, and he said Blobby requested me. Even though me and the general manager get on really well, he's gonna side with his manager over his supervisor. I explain I go out Thursday nights, and Blob said, "Listen, dude, I'm actually doing you a favor. When the manager job comes up and you know how to do the stock take and orders, it will look fantastic and you'll 100% get the job." I grit my teeth and go along with it. It makes sense to learn another valuable avenue of the job, so Thursday nights come around and Blobby sits at his desk with his feet up while I basically do his job. It's not a difficult task, and after a month, it's a piece of pie. Let me paint a picture of Blobby. He's short, fat, and balding. Ear pierced, thinks he's cool, but he really isn't. Think David Brent from The Office. Keep him on your side and work is a lot easier because he can be quite petty, but what he did next was far from petty. 3 months go by, and we've 1 week left before our manager leaves. They start the interview process, but for some reason, the owner decides to sit in and do the interviews. Really strange. So the interview starts, and I'm hit with, how do you expect to be our manager if your timekeeping is so poor? They have a list of times I clocked in late. 5 minutes here, 7 minutes there. The thing is, timekeeping wasn't an issue. You come in late the odd time, and then they need you to stay back, most would. Take a penny, leave a penny scenario. But these guys go to town on me. They have surveillance footage of me taking in a delivery, which isn't part of my job, without wearing a high-vis jacket. Your complete lack of concern for safety regulations is appalling. Emails from a few irate customers over the years that complained about me. I did the right thing in all those circumstances, but taken out of context, looks like I was in the wrong. I've given up fighting my corner. I know I'm not getting this promotion. My coworker got it. If it wasn't me, I was happy it was her. She was also very good at her job and would no doubt make a fine manager. So, after giving so much for the company over 3 years, I found myself doing things half-butted. Why go the extra mile when it wasn't appreciated? I'm still on stock duty on a Thursday night while Blobby is down dealing with a customer. I'm in the office inputting the stock figures. I accidentally close the program. I open Blobby's folder, where the program is, and see a file saying discrepancies. I don't know why I clicked in, but I did. I see my name, Mumblybum's folder. Of course, I'm going to click in and see what's going down in the Funky Town. I'm effing shocked. There are about 5 subfolders in my folder. Lates, dangerous delivery, potential stealing, associates, and hungover. We've already talked about latest and dangerous delivery. The stealing one is me leaning over a closed till but looks like I'm trying to hide something, which I wasn't. Utter nonsense. Associates is pictures of me standing with my coworkers chatting when it wasn't busy, and hungover was screenshots from my Facebook when I was out the night before and then at work the next day. It was clear as day that this C handed this information to the owners. Finishing up that night was so effing tough. I wanted to rip that earring out and pop his bald head like a pimple, but I played it cool and finished my shift. Monday comes around and I ask to talk to the GM. I explain what I found, and it's really serious because it's an invasion of privacy. CCTV should only be used to review footage when something goes wrong, not used to stalk me. The GM says he only found out after the interviews were over. The reason he didn't do them was because he was also leaving. He was a good man and didn't BS around. He said Blobby hated me. Don't know why, but he was always bringing up issues with me. He then recommended me getting a new job because more than likely Bobby was going to be the new general manager and my life there would be unbearable if he got it. So I talked to my brother and sister who are a lot smarter than me about what roads to go down. File a complaint? What's the point when the owner used his dossier against me? Bring him to court? Not too much hassle for very little payoff. If you're still reading, I applaud you. High five. This is where it gets fun. Blobby wants the general manager position more than anything. He has a bit of a competition, but he's the front runner. I could spend the next 2 months looking for work or could be ambitious and try to bury this piece of crap. I chose the latter. So I'm drinking with my girlfriend one night and we're joking around about how to get revenge. She scared me a little with her suggestions. Some tame ones like key his car and then a straight jump to burn his house down. If any authorities are watching, we were only joking. And just like that, Fat Boy signed his own death certificate. While I'm on the stock shift, he makes a passing remark. We have to start nailing this stock down since to the last popcorn kernel. The yearly stock take is in 6 weeks, and the owner is doing it, and she's a ball breaker. I know all about her. She ripped me to pieces in the interview. Don't worry, Blobby. Mumblybum is on the case. Those numbers will be perfect. And he goes for the Oscar with this line. You're a good worker. Effing travesty you didn't get the manager job, but when I get in the hot seat, you'll be made a manager as soon as a position comes up. No interview required. What a prick. I'm so good at taking stock that he doesn't even check my work. I'm making the orders and counting the stock, so over the next 6 weeks I start to F crap up. I put the orders in on a Wednesday for our Friday delivery. I normally eyeball it and see what movies are coming out, and we always had a nice bit of stock on hand. Not too much, not too little. That's about to change. I start adding 25% to every order we get in. I show Blob the docket, he signs them, happy days. Then when I'm doing the stock on Thursday, I put in that we ordered our usual amount. The system balances on the computer, but what we have in the stock rooms is a lot more. I'll do this for the next 4 weeks. I'm royally effed if you ever actually looked in the stock rooms. They're nearly exploding with products. Luckily for me and unlucky for him, he's a lazy C. And the last week before the ball breaker does the end-of-year stock take, I balance everything on the computer as usual before we call it a night. I tell him to check the pre-sales tomorrow. We're going to have a busy weekend, so I say to him, email our suppliers and get a bit extra. It will all get used anyway, and we're looking pretty perfect on the stock count. Granted, I've been adding on 25% for the past month or so, but he goes ultra blobby and bangs out an emergency email to our supplier asking could they double the standing order for tomorrow. Check effing mate. When I get home that night, I type up my resignation letter. I ask the general manager, who has a couple of weeks left, if I can leave immediately due to unforeseen circumstances. He agrees because he's a good man and gives me his personal number and an amazing written reference, wishes me the best, and thanks me for all my hard work. Like Andy Dufresne, I crawled through a sea of crap and came out clean on the other side. I confide in one of the regular workers what I've done over a couple of pints. He said the next day when the delivery came, they couldn't fit it all in the 4 different stock rooms. Rule of thumb would be about 3 weeks stock on hand. We must have had about 8. Now, I know you're going to say I'm really hurting the owners. I'm not. All of the stock will be used except maybe a few bags of popcorn that will expire. Everything else will get sold for an exorbitant profit. Word on the grapevine was that the yearly stock take went into the wee hours of the morning, 3 a.m. to be precise. Blobby was boxed in. The stock was a cluster F, tens of thousands of euro off. He could take the blame himself and look incompetent, or say I did it, to which he looks worse considering he was behind the dossier to slander me. I don't know what he did. All I know is he didn't get the GM position, and within 6 months was working selling furniture. I never spoke to him about it, but one would hope he knows it was me who effed him. F you, Blobby, you rotund walking beanbag. Okay, so first off, I don't think there's any reason to get into body shaming just because this person, who I'm gonna guess is Bobby is his actual name, he sounds like an absolute prick. Absolutely. Say bad things about it. You don't gotta body shame him. But also, good on you for doing this, because if Bobby had just done his job and checked this stuff, then he never would have had a problem. And so, yeah, he kinda got what he deserves. It sucks to be him, I guess. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for demanding respect from my daughter-in-law, and if she can't, then get the F out? I'm a young mother-in-law. I'm only 39. My kids are pretty young, and I'm very lucky that my husband makes a lot of money, so I don't have to work. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and once they started to spread their wings, instead of going to work, my husband and I decided I would be a homemaker and be active in the community. That's what I've been up to, and I try to make the community a better place. Now my oldest son, 22, is married, and I was really excited until I met her. In general, she's a very business-focused person that is very blunt. I actively dislike her, but I try to be polite for my son's sake. A few examples of why I don't like her: her wedding gift I handed over saying it was from me and my husband. She responded back with, "Just your husband, since I know it wasn't your money that paid for it." Saying I am volunteering, well, that's not a real job since it doesn't make money. It's passive-aggressive, and yes, I have talked to my son about it, and even once with her to try to clear the air. We had a get-together last night, and I made a homemade meal. When I was playing everything, she came up and made the comment, "No wonder I can make a home-cooked meal. I don't do anything else with my day." I lost it and told her that she needed to respect me or get the F out of my house. She was shocked and then started to cry when I kicked her out. My son is peed, and we had a huge argument, and he called me a huge a-hole. I need an outside opinion. Okay, my outside opinion is that your daughter-in-law is an a-hole and your son is a cowardly prick. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not okay. Being a homemaker, stay-at-home mom, working in the community, all that stuff is not doing nothing. It's perfectly valid if that is what you want to do. And it sounds like it's what you're happy doing. And also, raising kids, keeping a house clean, all that is not doing nothing all day. It's a good amount of friggin' work. It's not wrong that you want to do that. It's not wrong that she wants to be business-minded. What's wrong is being so crappy and judgmental and just rude. So in-your-face rude. It's not passive-aggressive. Those comments were just plain aggressive. So yeah, kick her out of your house if she's gonna be like that. And if she's gonna cry about it, well, you're just being blunt too, so she should get over it. Story 5. Yell at me in front of a customer? Fine. Everyone gets 18 ounces of free coffee. This was a while ago, and I have since quit this job. I used to work at a diner on the weekends. To-go coffees are served in styrofoam cups and only come in one size, 12 ounces. A trucker came in for breakfast, and he asked for a big coffee to go. Again, they only come in one size, so I sold him a 12-ounce coffee and gave him his cup. Usually we leave space in since people want to add cream, but I filled them all the way up. Then my manager pulls me aside in front of him and reprimands me for not giving him a big coffee like he asked for, all while he's nodding and smiling. When I asked her what she would like me to do because we only have coffee cups in one size, she told me I should have known that I was supposed to use a styrofoam soft drink cup instead. Those cups are 30 ounces. In my entire time working there, we have never done that. There is no option in the register to charge someone for a 30-ounce coffee, but the customer was upset, so she made up a non-existent rule on the spot and belittled me to make him happy. She threw me under the bus. You'd be surprised how many customers ask for big, large, jumbo, huge, enough to fill a 10-gallon coffees every day. It's usually a joke, followed by some comment about them being tired. They aren't really asking about coffee cup size, they're just trying to make conversation and use silly words. So for the next several months, I proceeded to give every single person who made a comment about coffee size a 30-ounce coffee and charge them for a 12-ounce. That coffee maker was constantly going. I mean constantly. We were going through bags of coffee like crazy, almost as if we were selling nearly 3 times as much without making more profit from it. All right, to all the managers who like to belittle their employees and call them out in front of customers, here's a polite way of doing that when a customer's getting upset that they're not getting the big coffee that they want or whatever. You go up to the employee and go, oh, you know what, actually, if you want, you can just use the 30-ounce soft drink cups and everything in this instance. It's no big deal. And, you can do this on the till or whatever. Just act like a reasonable person. Act like an adult talking to another adult. Maybe don't be an a-hole and just communicate that. And the person standing there can be like, oh, this cashier didn't know that that's something that someone does every once in a while. I can understand that. And if the customer doesn't understand that, as the manager, it's your job to defend your employee, not the customer in that situation. Because, God, it's not hard to be a good manager, and yet so many of you are so bad at it. Story 6. I can hear my neighbor talk to his cat. Every day when my neighbor comes home from work, he unlocks his door and says, "Hello, Kevin," and Kevin the cat meows back in greeting. Our apartment building is small, and I can hear nearly everything that happens in the communal hallways in my living room. I don't know my neighbor at all, not even his name, but I know his cat. My neighbor also likes to smoke a lot of weed. No shame, I like to indulge too, just not every day. I work from home and live alone, but hearing, "Hello, Kevin," has become a part of my routine. It makes me smile every time. Yesterday, I heard the normal, "Hello, Kevin" greeting and Kevin's meow. I later smelt the blunt he smoked. Then I heard him go into the laundry room and come back. But then I heard something odd. Kevin's meowing was super loud, and he sounded peed. I waited a little while, but Kevin persisted. I opened up my door and saw Kevin outside the neighbor's door. He was practically screaming and jumping up to hit the door with his little paws. Inside the apartment, I heard my neighbor echoing Kevin's cries. My neighbor sounded frantic and desperate, calling, "Kevin!" over and over again. I walked up to the door and knocked. I heard my neighbor pause, then quietly, with amazement and perhaps fear, repeat, "Kevin?" At the last minute, I decided to dart back into my apartment and softly close the door, listening while my neighbor let Kevin in. He whispered, "How did you do that, Kevin?" I've been laughing to myself about it since it happened, imagining my stoned-out-of-his-mind neighbor contemplating how his human cat knocked on his door. I mean, honestly, it sounds like your neighbor has a very great affection for his cat, and now you've made his cat a little bit magical. He's probably going to tell all of his friends, like, "Yeah, Kevin figured out how to knock on the door. It was amazing. Kevin, you're so smart." And Kevin will be like, because Kevin's not going to rat you out. Kevin's going to bask in that. That's extra treats right there. And then, maybe guys like, "Here, come on, knock on the door, Kevin. I'll give you a treat. Who knows? Who knows what magic you've brought into this world for that stoner? I know I would appreciate it. Story 7. My mom invoiced me and my sister for the expenses of raising us. Our household always revolved around money, even though my mom made more than enough money and we were not struggling by any means. She complained about every single thing she had to buy for us. Everything. Food, clothes, medical expenses, toys, laptops and phones, school costs, everything. We always knew exactly how much we were costing her. We didn't dare ask for unnecessary things like leisure activities or expensive toys or hobby supplies. We started working very young, and she manipulated and guilted us into giving her all the money we earned to pay off what we owed. When I turned 18, she completely cut me off financially, but kindly offered to let me rent my bedroom out from her, and sent me an invoice of every cent I've ever cost her, totaling over $700,000. She billed me for Christmas and birthday presents. She even billed me for her medical expenses and for pregnancy and delivery, and wanted me to pay back rent to live in the house from birth. She did the same to my sister 2 years later when she turned 18. We were supposed to pay her back over time, starting the day we turned 18. Both of us were still dealing with a lot of internalized guilt from her constant manipulation, so we actually did pay for a while. Aside from necessary expenses, our entire paychecks were going to her. We rented our bedrooms in her house, and she separated her food, cleaning supplies, cookware and tableware, etc. from ours and charged us to use them. She generously included the use of the household appliances in our rent. It wasn't until I was 21 and my sister was 19 that enough people had told us this whole arrangement was unhinged, and we finally snapped out of it. We moved out together and have stopped paying our mom or even contacting her at all. That's terrible parenting. Like, I'm not even saying it's just like not that great. It's really, truly bad. Like, I feel like this is borderline mental abuse. You can't do that to kids. They didn't choose to be born and all that other stuff. You're telling them as they're growing up about how much they're costing you so they feel this guilt and never want to cost you money. That is abusive. That's traumatic. And then to bill you for your whole life? That's not something you do to someone you love. That's something like I don't even know. I don't know how to describe a human being like that, but she's a bad person. She is flat out, I will not be taking any arguments on this. That mom is a bad person. And frankly, I think you should like sue her or something for mental trauma. Like if she ever took that to court and was like, I want my kids to pay me back for all this stuff, I think a judge would throw her in jail for the thought of it. I'm so mad. Please go no contact. You do not owe this person anything. She owes you for an entire childhood of torment. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.